What's up? And we're back. Looks like it's about 5:01 p.m. on Monday. May 5th. It's my niece's birthday. Michaela. I don't have anything to cover the ceiling yet. It is what it is. So much has been going through my mind lately. Or the lack thereof. One is about how the healing journey that each person goes through, how I see it almost like the spirit only has one direction, but it's always getting folded somehow in this one direction that's going. And so, pardon me. So, by following the spirit, it's going to lead you way off course, but it's somehow going to course correct and bring you back into alignment, right? And then for those trying to straddle the line to make sure that they're always secure, they give up their spirit, and so then they're jumping back and forth on the line, and then anything could come in and go, oh, look, I got a letter in the mail. Oh, shit, what are we going to do now? We're doomed. We move in with your parents or my parents? Kind of thing. If you don't have parents, oh shit, we're at the mercy of the world. And that's kind of where the spiritual journey seems to go the whole way, right? And so this idea of purity and cleanliness and what's right and wrong kind of has a huge gray area. At the same time, it's hard to define. So, since it's the Day of the Dead, I guess I'm going to do a little reading while I sip on a little bit of peppermint schnapps. Why? Well, I didn't even want to open the bottle, but I got it like 2 weeks ago. And the spirit it like leads us off course and leads us back. But if we're like, okay, then I only do this there or this here, then one gets divided. And that's the weird thing about having to maintain composure all the way through what, right? And so I guess it's a day of constant rebirth. But before I take a sip, let's pull a card. And give me one moment. Okay. So one thing I've noticed is how the masculine aspect always cuts itself off. And then by cutting itself off, it gets stronger. But then that's a weird aspect, right? How could something keep destroying itself to get better? And it always comes into a conflict of interest with itself or with the outside world. And so that's, I guess, where the second symbol of the Buddhist Sintamani, Om Mani Padme Hum, is about morality. Which is the enunciation ma, which is weird because we're talking about the masculine, right? But masculine starts with ma. And so suddenly I'm brought to think of the Jewish tradition of circumcision and how a baby boy would be held down by a bunch of men and have the or a bunch of nurses and have a man snip the tip to begin with, not just for hygiene, but as some magical symbolic thing about manhood. Whereas the feminine perspective, the odd thing about it is that it nurtures something to the point of smothering it. And the negative aspect would be like the weird aspect of the universal mother, and how if you don't get love, if your family doesn't give you any love, then you learn how to give yourself toxic love. But then through the toxic love, then you can alchemize what everyone else made you feel, and you can take it on yourself and overcome that. As if you did it to yourself, but you didn't do it to yourself. But the divine was involved in the healing process. And so we're all taking this really precarious journey, especially if every single person's soul is intertwined. And we had judgment come out sideways, see? So then each is up upon their own judgment, but each of us is carrying pieces for the whole collective. If nothing else, it's our very own body and our mind. And that's a precarious thing when it comes to the ego, because how could you pick yourself up? And how could you put yourself down? And how could you let everyone take you for granted or just dial you up and then you're down, start over again? But everyone's already got you. So wouldn't they be tired of you already? So the healing journey, the weird thing is about this innocence. Here we get the Two of Swords. See? We just had Justice come out sideways. But now we got the lady being tied up by crows. Or maybe they're pulling the strings off of her head. It's hard to tell whether they're helping her or they're harming her. She's blind. And so we have to have the work that we put in, and it's going to be all messy. And then we got to transmute it, right? With the Ace of Swords. The cornucopia of the mind. But see, here we have a crow again. But this one's leaving. Up in the corner we got Kabbalah, infinity symbol. We got a couple different symbols there. Mercury. So first thing I thought was DNA, but DNA isn't up there, but it might as well be. They're all symbols of the interconnectedness of life and life. Oops. Let me plug in my phone 1 second. Alright, so the feminine aspect nurtures each thing almost too much because she already has herself separately. And if she's content, then she'll give everything she has. The masculine aspect is the same, except everything it has to give dies in an instant. So the working of those two entities together is really interesting. Let me I have to find out more about this card if I can. Pardon me. Of course, it's missing from the book. The whole page missing. Okay. Let's check this one. Don't mind me. So, looks like the collective is overcoming in unison, working on this 5 of Cups. And it's overcoming disillusionment with what has happened, having to make new plans to accommodate a seemingly strong setback, and going through emotional states in between while things come into balance. Because isn't that strange how in one moment, depending on the day or somehow the outlook, all of a sudden one feels at peace. But then even with all the freedom in the world and being stuck in the same place, then we can feel like nothing would satisfy us. Or to have to sleep a lot. I've noticed that a lot of people have brought that up recently, having to take multiple naps a day. Same with me. So we're overcoming this 5 of Cups. Well, Five of Cups. What we got next? Pulled 43, which I just turned 4 days ago. Deciding. Right. Because the Spirit leads us through our darkest and deepest desires and places that we didn't even realize we wanted to go because we were afraid. But then by running along with the Spirit, which one can a lot more easily do with music and things like that, to make a mental map of a run, then you can see, oh man, that looks different now. But having made it and looked at it, you can change the outcome, or you can just erase that memory. And it's not like it still doesn't exist. So that's the double balance of AI. And a problem with it as well. But there has to be some kind of balance collectively to encapsulate each of us as a whole, but then each of us have helped build it, and it'll never be finished because ultimately the only thing that needs to be built is each of us. So then when we do cast things off, then they should go into, I don't know, remember they used to have the Wayback Machine for GeoCities? Then we got the Marrying Maiden. Marrying Maiden. To set out to bring order. Pitfall. No direction is fruitful. Okay. No matter where you go, there you are. Okay. I can get it out. All right. Because what spirit could we be channeling if we're not channeling our own? But what is spirit is the spirit unless it's the mind. And each mind draws its own conclusions and builds upon its own thoughts and how it got to somewhere or how it's getting back. So that's the ultimate mind, spirit. Right, so we have, sorry for the color of these, but we have temperance, the temperance angel here. Working with and balancing justice when justice is kind of a divine thing that each of us casts upon ourselves. The lessons that we need to learn in a lifetime. And we're all Jehovah's Witnesses to each other. And then thirdly, we have this three of wands. Gentleman looking off into the distance. The three of wands. It's about exercising leadership by example. Others will follow suit, but someone has got to be the first to stand up and resist negativity. And it all comes to the mind and bringing all the elements together to be worked on collectively. And even if they're cast off, and then they'll be maintained somewhere for, it's kind of like those that want to fuck with darkness, then it's there. Go ahead, fuck with it. Each is against yourself, and so yeah, each of us is. And so if anyone could be the mind, then each one to get into that mind, to see the contents, now you can't blame, that's the whole thing, like don't blame me, but me has to do with the mind and the ego, right? The word itself. And so then to get in there, then each of us has to contend with it. But each of us is still, it's weird how all of us could share such darkness and such light and have to come to terms with it to find a balance where we can all exist in the same space. And then there's no point in jealousy, it's like the God sitting on Mount Olympus. It's like, well, I'm the fastest, but remember, like, your weakness, like each god's got their weakness, and so it's like, oh yeah, ha ha ha, that's funny, right? Zeus is the king of the gods, but then he's busy making babies with all the mortals and cheating on his wife. But then he's not there, and then all the gods have to help all the half breeds and control and fight over mankind while they just hang back in some kind of like fucking craps game in the clouds. I mean, it's funny. It should be. What we got next? Oh. Boom. Oh, and what came out there was the Ace of Wands, reminding us to hold on to our own growth. The mind and the wands are like mind. If mind is swords, then wand is this balance between heaven and earth and left and right and opposing sides. And so this is manifesting control by working with the elements. And we're given the stag and the high priestess. If they ain't a good joke. But then they're folded. So you get stag, trust and believe. Yeah. So this is the buck racing towards the heaven. Then he gets his head mounted on the wall, don't he? And you got the high priestess. Harness mystic powers. So, spirituality, I believe, is all about mind, which is a complicated thing to discuss because it starts with, well, who am I watching? Who am I? What does my name mean? What do these words mean? Like, why am I here listening to this guy? Why did this guy show up here? Why is he recording himself talking on the video? Well, who was he before? Who am I now? What? Where are we going after this meeting together? Does what's going on television matter in that fact? Or whoever is the governor of the state or the mayor of the town, or whose house do we live in? Like, who's the rent being paid to? And so on and so forth. The mind becomes so complicated so fast. That's why it all has to come back. Keep condensing after expanding, but not leaving its space. But extending out into everything. And then having to condense back down and look at all those things again and take them all for what they are, and all this that we've learned just on the journey, but making sure that we don't hurt each other. Emotions and understanding each other is one thing, but as soon as anyone like steps out of line and actually reaches out and harms another human life, then that's like way out of bounds, right? Because everyone should get a second chance, because none of us really know what we're doing, and so nobody's death should be on anyone's hands. That's a really complicated thing. Why also, in a sense, I believe that executing people who have committed murder, it seems like that's a good idea. But then, even if they're comfortable in a cell, they should have to live out another 40 years or whatever. And all the scrutiny be put on them. If nothing else, so that it can be reevaluated by the system until we've solved these kinds of problems in society. Like I was discussing with myself earlier, my mother actually, how the system has all these ways to take care of us, right? We have like old folks' homes, and we can have our own business. There's welfare, Social Security, and such. But then any changes in the market suddenly change all of that. And then, oh my God, I can't catch myself when I'm falling. And all of my work, when I go to work every day, some of that goes to Social Security and all these other things, but then they might not be there for me. But then I'm still coming to work. Like, how's this stuff carry forward? The investment plan, right? And ultimately, I believe that kind of what was going on during COVID, right? Where a lot of people had got money or didn't get money, but everything got to shuffle around, right? So that each person could find some way, whether side hustles or things they make or whatever, find a way to generate money every day. and in order to be able to pick oneself up or to tie your goods in with everyone else's goods so that the structure of the world is based more individually while there's a higher mind tied in through it all, trying to calculate and work it out for all of us. But that's why everything's broken for security purposes. At the same time, while there's monopolies, but the not monopolies are entirely busted, where they're red-handed no matter what, and so pretty much everything's got to go back. I know what that's like. But at the same time, being government controlled or whatever at some point there, then the structure is continually trying to equal itself out. But once each person has ways that we can contribute to each other each day, and product of some things we made on the side that just continue to generate, then each person can hold a floor of no floor where there's always abundance and you can be making more things. Ultimately, I think is the world goal, right? So each of us is our own country, so to speak, of many municipalities of, well, I have this side business, that side business, this one. But it can be a lot of small things in ways that we contribute back to the whole. And it helps refine us. And the work we did yesterday gets credit. And at this, we've got Libra, and the 11th house popped out. High balance, friends. Balancing 11. High balance, friends. Followed by Chiron and healing was on the bottom. Let's get one more. 10th house, the world. Number 34. Exactly what I was just describing. It seems hard to move forward telepathing one's own moves all the time and being so transparent. But if you can't, then, like they say, what's hidden will come to the light, right? What just popped out? The age of light. You've been training for this for lifetimes. The world's not changing. It is, but it isn't. It's the individuals that are changing. Each of us. And that's the most important part. The lotus only grows out of the swamp. But there's lots of abundance there if you can live off of decay. It's remind whoever's looking at this right now to trust that niggle. What was that feeling telling you? And then reach for that. Each of us has all these different forms of light in us. It can be, but it's not as simple as just being like, I'm Prince. Well, what's Prince? Well, he's Little Red Corvette, he's Purple Rain, he's... Okay, yeah. None of us are even that easy to describe. But those memories will last, And it's kind of like that. Where each of us finds a way to support our own and be all of our voice in a pillar of light. The pillar of light. Your vibration is rising. You are the oracle. And if there's any power invested in me, that's what I'd be telling you. But we all have to work together and apart too. meaning having our own sights set while expanding and vibrating our own frequency. And then the path will be made without any of us colliding in our paths, is what I'm guided to say. Unbound, where there is no collision course with the end of the world. There's only abundance. And we reap it from each moment with being our true selves, authentic, and generating what we are, truly. Releasing soul patterns, contracts, and past lives. As I've been going through all this stuff that I've been stored up for a couple years now. But that's not even like a fifth of it. And it's like Encyclopedia Britannica of, oh my God, I can't even read this stuff. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, in the very moment when I wrote that, that was like I see why, like on a MS-DOS, that flashing cursor's called, where the syntax is and the cursor. And you write that line and then it's like boop, 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 boop. And in the moment watching it, you're like, yeah, okay, yep, this is perfect readout, right? And then you come back later and you're like, oh my God, I can't even look at this. It's like painful. It somehow hurts the soul. But it's the mind on the mind, having to look at the mind. And it's the worst if it's your own, but it's carrying everyone else's mind. And what's mind if it's not, God damn it, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, do that. Right. I'm glad that's tacked down somewhere, but where do we go from here? Oh man, should I hide this? Should I throw this away? Should I keep it? But to know that if we're on the journey and in all of our honesty and sovereignty and truth, that there's divine protection. Don't dim your light to fit in. And so here's my reading for today. So far, it's a long journey back when I've never left. And we've been doing this together, and I'm always removing things and adding things and running ahead off of a break and then breaking it back. And what's bad? What's good? Doing the best we can. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so it has to be digested in pieces. And if we can't show the worst of ourselves, especially if each of us have it within us, then there's not a lot of relationship to build on. So I thank you for spending this little bit of time with me. And I'll see you soon.